Claimed by the billionaire. I saved you once. Now you'll save me or destroy us both. The rain hammered against the cracked windshield of Sarah Chen's 15-year-old Honda as she pulled into the parking lot of Chicago's St. Mary's Hospital. Her hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone, checking the time. 11:47 p.m. The emergency room would close its financial aid office in 13 minutes, and without those papers signed tonight, her daughter Emma's surgery would be postponed indefinitely. The leukemia wouldn't wait. Sarah's sneakers splashed through puddles as she ran toward the hospital entrance, clutching a manila folder against her chest. Inside were 3 jobs worth of pay stubs, her apartment lease, and a letter from Emma's oncologist explaining why the 8-year-old needed the procedure within the week. What wasn't inside was the $50 US deposit the insurance company demanded up front. She burst through the automatic doors, water dripping from her dark hair onto the sterile linoleum. The financial aid office was down a maze of corridors she'd memorized over the past 6 months of Emma's treatment. Her worn-out nursing shoes squeaked against the floor as she hurried past the late-night visitors and medical staff. "Please, please still be open," she whispered, turning the final corner. The office was dark. A custodian was wheeling a cart away from the door. "Excuse me," Sarah called out. "Is anyone still in there?" The elderly man shook his head sympathetically. "They left about 10 minutes ago, honey. Office opens at 8 tomorrow morning." Sarah's knees nearly buckled. Tomorrow would be too late. The surgery scheduler had been clear. If the financial arrangements weren't completed by midnight, Emma's slot would go to the next patient on the waiting list. And with Emma's rare blood type and specific surgical needs, there wouldn't be another opening for months. She sank onto a nearby bench, the manila folder falling to the floor. Papers scattered across the linoleum, medical bills, collection notices, her daughter's smiling school photo paper clipped to the insurance forms. A tear splashed onto Emma's picture. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Sarah looked up to see a man in an expensive navy suit approaching. Even at nearly midnight, his appearance was immaculate. Pressed shirt, platinum cufflinks, shoes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his green eyes held a mixture of concern and exhaustion. "I'm fine," she lied, quickly gathering her papers. "Just waiting for someone." He didn't buy it. Instead, he sat down beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "I'm Alexander Hayes. Most people call me Alex, and you look like someone who's carrying the weight of the world." The name sounded familiar, but Sarah was too distraught to place it. "Sarah Chen, and I'm not your problem to solve." "Maybe not," Alex said gently, "but I've spent the last 4 hours in this hospital, and I've learned that sometimes sharing problems makes them lighter." Despite herself, Sarah found his calm presence oddly comforting. "My daughter needs surgery. Tonight was my last chance to get the financial aid approved, and I missed it by 10 minutes. 10 minutes that might cost Emma her life." Alex was quiet for a moment. "What kind of surgery?" "Bone marrow transplant. She has acute lymphoblastic leukemia." The words felt like stones in Sarah's throat. "I'm a match, but the procedure costs more money than I'll make in 5 years of double shifts at the diner." "You're a nurse?" "Was. Got laid off when Emma got sick and I couldn't maintain full-time hours. Now I wait tables at Rosie's downtown diner and clean office buildings at night." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but unless you're secretly a billionaire philanthropist, there's nothing you can do." Alex's mouth quirked slightly. "Well, that's interesting you mention billionaires." Sarah stood up, embarrassed by her breakdown in front of a stranger. "I need to get home. Emma's staying with my neighbor and she gets scared when I'm gone too long." "Wait." Alex pulled out his phone. "Let me make a call." "To who?" "It's almost midnight." "To someone who owes me a favor." He dialed a number. "Marcus, it's Alex Hayes. I need you to get down to St. Mary's Hospital right now and open the financial aid office. No, I don't care what time it is, because I'm calling in that favor from the Pemberton merger." Sarah stared at him in disbelief as he continued the conversation. "Good. We'll be waiting." He hung up and turned to Sarah. "Marcus Kellerman, the hospital's chief financial officer, will be here in 20 minutes. "I don't understand. Who are you?" Someone who knows what it's like to feel powerless in a hospital corridor. Alex's expression darkened momentarily. My father died in this hospital 15 years ago. I was 19, broke, and the doctors wouldn't perform an experimental treatment because we couldn't pay for it. I swore that night that I'd never let money be the reason someone lost a parent or a child. But how do you just call someone at midnight and Hayes Industries donated $50 million to build the new pediatric wing. Marcus takes my calls. Sarah's eyes widened. Hayes Industries, the tech conglomerate that owned half of downtown Chicago. You're Alexander Hayes, the Alexander Hayes. Guilty as charged. Why are you here so late? Alex ran a hand through his hair. Board meeting ran until 11. I was heading to my car when I got a call from my security team. Someone broke into my penthouse while I was here. Apparently, they made quite a mess looking for something. I'm sorry, that must be horrible having your privacy violated like that. Alex looked at her with surprise. Most people, upon learning his identity, immediately shifted into either aggressive networking mode or obsequious flattery. Sarah's genuine empathy caught him off guard. It's just stuff, he said. Unlike what you're facing. Marcus Kellerman arrived exactly 20 minutes later, slightly out of breath and clearly annoyed at being summoned. But his irritation evaporated the moment he saw Alex. Mr. Hayes, what can I do for you? This is Sarah Chen. Her daughter Emma needs financial assistance for a bone marrow transplant. I want you to process her application tonight and approve whatever coverage she needs. Marcus glanced at Sarah's scattered papers. Sir, there are procedures, committee approvals. Marcus. Alex's voice carried the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Make it happen. 2 hours later, Sarah walked out of the hospital in a daze. Emma's surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m., fully covered by the hospital's charitable foundation. Alex had waited through the entire process, occasionally making calls to expedite various approvals. I don't know how to thank you, Sarah said as they reached the parking garage. You don't need to thank me. Just focus on Emma's recovery. But why? You don't even know us. Alex was quiet as they reached his car, a modest black sedan that surprised Sarah. She'd expected something flashier. 5 years ago, I was engaged to a woman named Victoria Ashford. Old Chicago money, society connections, the whole package. I thought I loved her. He leaned against his car. Then I found out she'd been cheating on me with my business partner, primarily because I wasn't exciting enough. Apparently, I was too focused on work and not enough on the social scene. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me something valuable about people's true nature. Victoria and her circle, they were attracted to the money and status, not the person. Since then, I've become somewhat selective about who I let into my life. Sarah felt a flutter of something she hadn't experienced in years, attraction to someone who wasn't Emma's father. Well, for what it's worth, I think Victoria was an idiot. Alex smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him all night. Can I give you a ride home? It's still raining. The ride to Sarah's modest apartment in Logan Square took 20 minutes through empty streets. Alex didn't seem bothered by the neighborhood's rough edges or the graffitied walls. When they pulled up to her building, he insisted on walking her to the door. Will you let me know how Emma's surgery goes? He asked. Sarah nodded, then impulsively reached up and kissed his cheek. Thank you, Alex, for everything. The surgery was a success. Emma's recovery progressed beautifully, and after 2 weeks in the hospital, she was finally strong enough to go home. Alex visited daily, always bringing some small gift, a book, a puzzle, art supplies. Emma adored him, and Sarah found herself looking forward to his visits more than she cared to admit. One evening, as Emma napped in her hospital bed, Alex and Sarah sat in the family lounge sharing coffee from the vending machine. I have a confession, Alex said. I've been thinking about offering you a job. What kind of job? Personal assistant. The pay is excellent, full benefits, and you could work primarily from home while Emma recovers. My current assistant is retiring next month. Sarah studied his face. Is this charity? It's practicality. I need someone I trust, someone who isn't impressed by wealth or status, someone genuine. He paused. I'd like it to be you. 3 months later, Sarah was working from Alex's downtown office while Emma attended a private school that Alex had insisted on paying for. Their relationship had evolved from gratitude to friendship to something deeper, though neither had acknowledged it aloud. That changed the night of the Hayes Industries charity gala. "You don't have to go," Alex told Sarah as his stylist fussed over her emerald green gown. "I know these events aren't your thing." "It's part of the job," Sarah replied, though her stomach churned at the thought of facing Chicago's social elite. The gala was held at the Palmer House, and Sarah felt overwhelmed by the opulence: crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, and enough jewelry to fund several small countries. She stayed close to Alex, who seemed completely at ease, despite mentioning earlier that he typically hated these events. "Alexander, darling." Sarah turned to see a stunning blonde approaching them. Even in a room full of beautiful women, this one stood out, model thin, perfectly made up, wearing a gown that probably cost more than most cars. "Victoria," Alex said coolly. "I didn't know you were back in Chicago." "Just flew in from the Hamptons. I heard about your little charitable endeavors lately." Victoria's eyes flicked dismissively over Sarah. "How noble of you." "Victoria Ashford, meet Sarah Chen, my assistant." Victoria's smile was sharp as glass. "How lovely. I'm Alex's former fiancée. We have so much history together." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. The way Victoria looked at Alex suggested their history wasn't entirely past tense. "If you'll excuse us," Alex said, placing a protective hand on Sarah's back, "we should mingle." But Victoria wasn't finished. Throughout the evening, she made pointed comments about Sarah's background, her daughter, her fortunate employment situation. Each barb was delivered with a smile and couched in false concern, making it difficult for Sarah to respond without seeming paranoid or ungrateful. The final straw came when Sarah overheard Victoria talking to a group of socialites near the ladies' room. "It's quite sweet, really. Alex has always had a weakness for charity cases, though I do worry about Emma getting too attached. These arrangements rarely last long, and children can be so fragile." Sarah's blood ran cold. Victoria knew about Emma. When Sarah returned to the ballroom, Alex was nowhere to be found. Victoria approached her with a champagne flute and a predatory smile. "Looking for Alex, he's taking a business call. Something about tomorrow's board meeting." She sipped her champagne. "You know, Sarah, I should probably warn you about something. I'm not interested in anything you have to say." "Oh, but you should be. You see, Alex has done this before. The whole knight in shining armor routine. There was a single mother in Boston 3 years ago, a struggling artist in Seattle before that. He helps them, employs them, sometimes even gets romantically involved. But eventually, the novelty wears off." Sarah's hands trembled slightly, but she kept her voice steady. "You're lying." "Am I? Ask him about Jennifer Morrison or Maria Santos. Better yet, ask him about the psychological profile his therapist prepared after our breakup. Something about needing to be needed, using charity to fill an emotional void." Victoria's smile widened. "He keeps copies in his office safe. Combination is his father's death date. Quite sentimental, our Alex." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. As much as she wanted to dismiss Victoria as a jealous ex, the specific details were too accurate to ignore. And Victoria's mention of Emma felt like a threat. When Alex finally found Sarah, she was in the hotel lobby waiting for a taxi. "Sarah, what happened? I looked everywhere for you. I need to go home to Emma. I'll drive you, just let me—" "No." The sharpness in her voice stopped him cold. "I think we need some space to figure things out." Alex's face fell. "What did Victoria say to you? Does it matter? Maybe she just reminded me of some truths I was too grateful to see clearly. Sarah, please, whatever she told you—" "Good night, Alex." The taxi pulled away, leaving Alex standing alone under the hotel's bright lights, looking lost and confused. Sarah spent a sleepless night replaying every moment of her relationship with Alex, analyzing every gesture and conversation for signs of manipulation. By morning, she'd convinced herself that Victoria was right. How else could she explain Alex's immediate, overwhelming generosity to a complete stranger? She submitted her resignation letter by email before Emma woke up. Alex called 17 times that day. Sarah didn't answer. 2 days later, Emma asked the question Sarah had been dreading. "Mommy, why isn't Alex coming to visit anymore?" Sarah looked at her daughter, who had colored a picture of the three of them together. Emma had drawn herself in the middle, holding hands with both adults. The innocence and trust in that picture made Sarah's chest ache. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, sweetheart. But Alex loves us. He told me so." Those words haunted Sarah for the next week. Emma grew increasingly withdrawn, asking daily when Alex was coming back. The vibrant, recovering child began to retreat into herself, picking at her food and losing the spark that had returned during her recovery. Meanwhile, Sarah struggled with her new job search. The employment gap for Emma's illness made her a difficult candidate, and the few interviews she managed to secure offered positions that paid barely above minimum wage with no benefits. One evening, while Sarah was reviewing classified ads at their kitchen table, someone knocked on the apartment door. Emma perked up hopefully. "Is it Alex?" Sarah looked through the peephole to see a woman she didn't recognize, middle-aged, professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase. "Sarah Chen. My name is Patricia Moore. I'm a private investigator, and I have some information I think you'll want to hear." Patricia's revelation changed everything. Victoria hadn't just been spreading malicious gossip. She'd been conducting a calculated campaign to destroy Alex's relationships for years. The women Victoria had mentioned were real, but the stories were fabricated. Jennifer Morrison was Alex's accountant's wife, whom he'd helped through a difficult divorce. Maria Santos was a business partner, not a romantic interest. "Ms. Ashford hired me to investigate Mr. Hayes's recent activities," Patricia explained. "She was particularly interested in his relationship with you and your daughter. But as I dug deeper, I discovered a pattern of harassment and manipulation targeting several women in Mr. Hayes's life." Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Phone records, emails, social media posts. Victoria has been systematically attempting to isolate Alex from anyone she perceives as a threat to their eventual reconciliation. She's been telling people for years that they have an understanding, that their breakup was temporary. Sarah's stomach dropped. She threatened Emma. "Not directly, but she's been monitoring your daughter's school, your apartment building. I have photos of her car parked outside Emma's school twice last week." The realization that Victoria had been stalking them sent ice through Sarah's veins. She'd been so focused on protecting herself from potential heartbreak that she'd ignored a real threat to her daughter. "There's something else," Patricia continued. "Mr. Hayes hired me originally, not to investigate you, but to look into the break-in at his penthouse the night you met. Victoria orchestrated that too, looking for leverage to use against him." Sarah thought about that night, about Alex's exhaustion and vulnerability. He'd been genuinely rattled by the invasion of his privacy, and instead of going home to deal with the aftermath, he'd stayed at the hospital to help a stranger. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Mr. Hayes is a good man who deserves better. And because that little girl of yours is asking the school counselor every day when her Uncle Alex is coming back. The counselor is concerned about her emotional regression." That afternoon, Sarah drove to Hayes Industries headquarters. The building was an imposing steel and glass tower in the heart of downtown Chicago, and Sarah felt intimidated as she approached the reception desk. "I need to see Alexander Hayes. It's urgent." The receptionist looked skeptical. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm Sarah Chen. I used to work for him." Recognition flickered in the woman's eyes. "Oh, Ms. Chen, Mr. Hayes left specific instructions that you should be sent up immediately if you ever came by. 37th floor." The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, Sarah stepped into an elegant reception area where a woman in her 50s smiled warmly at her. "Ms. Chen, I'm Margaret, Mr. Hayes' executive assistant. He's in his office. Just go right through that door. And Ms. Chen, he's been hoping you'd come." Alex was standing at his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over Lake Michigan. He turned when he heard the door, and Sarah's heart clenched at the exhaustion and sadness in his eyes. "Sarah." He said her name like a prayer. "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I let Victoria get into my head. and I was so scared of being a charity case that I forgot to trust what I knew about you." Alex crossed the room in 3 quick strides. "You have nothing to apologize for. Victoria can be very convincing, and I should have told you about my history with her from the beginning. Patricia Moore came to see me. She told me what Victoria's been doing." Alex's jaw tightened. "I hired Patricia after the break-in. I had no idea Victoria was targeting you and Emma. She's been watching Emma's school. Not anymore. I have a restraining order being filed as we speak, and my security team is handling the situation. Victoria won't be a problem for any of us again." Sarah looked up at him, seeing the man who had sat with her in a hospital corridor and refused to let her face her worst nightmare alone. "Emma's been asking for you every day. She colored us a picture, the 3 of us together. She drew herself in the middle, holding both our hands." Alex's expression softened. "I've been carrying a picture she drew for me. It's in my wallet. I love you, Alex. Not your money, not your status. You, the man who makes terrible coffee, but brings it to me anyway. Who reads bedtime stories to my daughter in funny voices. Who sees people as human beings, not problems to be solved. I love you too, Sarah. I have since that first night when you told me I wasn't your problem to solve. Then let me help anyway." Their first real kiss tasted like tears and redemption, like second chances and forever promises. 6 months later, Alex knelt in the children's garden behind Sarah's apartment building, while Emma helped him present a ring she'd picked out herself. A simple solitaire that caught the late afternoon sunlight. "Emma and I have been conspiring," Alex said, grinning as Emma giggled beside him. "We want to know if you'll marry us, both of us. We're kind of a package deal now." Sarah looked at the 2 people who had become her world. Her daughter, healthy and radiant and secure in the knowledge that she was loved, and the man who had taught them both that love wasn't about saving or being saved, but about choosing each other every day. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "yes to both of you." As Alex slipped the ring onto her finger, and Emma launched herself into their embrace, Sarah realized that some fairy tales weren't about princes rescuing princesses. Sometimes they were about 2 people saving each other, and a little girl who helped them both remember that family isn't about blood or circumstance. It's about love, commitment, and the courage to trust in tomorrow. The Chicago skyline glittered in the distance, bearing witness to their beginning.